Seems to me that there's quite a world of difference between sexual language and sexist language, and it seems that a lot of sexual language, if that sexual language is deemed inappropriate and unnecessary and unwarranted, is labelled sexist when it isn't entirely clear why that is the case. Some things we can obviously see as being sexist language in and of itself. If I was to say something along the lines of women are fucking useless, I think most people would accept that that is a sexist thing to say. I would certainly regard that as a sexist and unwarranted and untrue thing to say. And just to preempt and save anybody from doing it in the comments section, so would most of the witty responses that could be made to that statement be equally sexist remarks. They might be witty and there might be a time and place for them, but the nature of those comments are that they are sexist. Those aren't the kind of comments that I'm talking about. I'm talking really about sexual comments. A comment along the lines of, let's say I just watched a Lacey Green video, and then at the end of watching the video left a comment like, would you like me to have a suck on your titties, Lacey? Not that I've got to make it quite clear, I've never left a comment on one of Lacey Green's videos along those lines or anything even close. I purely use Lacey as an example because perhaps in the earliest days of her YouTube career, she maybe was quite aware of the capacity of her chest to increase both a subscriber and a view count, and so those kinds of comments were left in quite some number. But here's the thing. I've received those kind of comments, admittedly not talking about sucking on my titties, but sucking on another part of my anatomy, and often much more graphic comments than the kind of comment that I just described there. And this is the really interesting thing about those comments, is that of all those comments that I've received over the last 6 years, and I wouldn't say that I'm inundated with them by any stretch of the imagination, but I've had a fair fucking number. It's got to be in the hundreds, I would say, by now. That almost every comment, maybe there's just been one or two that go against this rule over 6 years, but almost every one of those comments has been from a gay man, or a man that talks as if they're gay. So when I receive those comments from gay men, is that a sexist comment? Is it that these gay men are sexist and they like to leave sexist comments, and maybe they're misandrists, maybe they hate men, as the sort of equivalent of these sexist comments being left by misogynists, which is the other claim that he's made. Seems to me that this is entirely inappropriate. We're misappropriating words here. These are sexual comments that may or may not be wanted or acceptable, and I think we could discuss when they are. Certainly if you know that they're not wanted, then it's not an acceptable thing to do, I would suggest. If you haven't got good grounds to think that they might be acceptable comments to that individual, gauging how they've reacted to things in the past, gauging the kind of things they talk about on their channel, then I think they're inappropriate things to say. This isn't me saying they're appropriate things to say, it's me saying they're not sexist. And this is what I think is going on. It isn't that men make these sexist comments to women because men are sexist towards women, which is how this is often portrayed. What is going on is this, is that I propose it is men that make these kinds of comments, not women. And I don't know why it is, but it's men that make these sexual comments and not women. And the vast majority of men are heterosexual, so they make those comments to women. So gay men, not all gay men obviously, and not all heterosexual men, but of the men that make these kind of comments, the ones that are homosexual make it towards men, and the ones that are heterosexual make it towards women. I don't think there is any sexism in this, it's just the bald facts of the case that men make sexual comments, and most men are heterosexual. Now, I don't know if anybody else has a different perspective on this, and anybody can actually justify why these comments are sexist. If they can, then what I want them to tell me is, when a gay man makes those comments to me on my channel, is that a man being sexist towards another man? And if that's the case, if the case of differentiating between one sex and another on the basis of sexual attraction, which is what we're talking about, is sexist, then isn't the whole business of sexual attraction sexist and should be labelled and dismissed as such? And if it should be, haven't we just descended into total and fucking utter madness? Well, I'd be delighted to know what you think on this one. It's a little bit of a conundrum that's had me ticking over for a couple of days. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.